What's up, my fellow bulls? This is your mid-month monthly horoscope for the month of October 2016 with moi. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is for anybody who is born under the sun, moon, or rising sign in the sign of Taurus the bull. And don't forget, you are more than one sign, people, okay? You have a whole chart to look at. And there are three main signs that you need to look at when it comes to your monthly horoscopes, which are your sun sign, which most of you already know, your rising sign, which you only know if you know the time that you were born, and your moon sign, if you know the day that you were born. So look at those three every single month. And if you don't know what any of those are, except for maybe your sun sign, there's a link that I posted down below to where you can go to check out your whole entire chart and see what it has to say about you as a unique individual. Don't forget, if you would like a reading, I do have a website you can go to order one from me, and that is indigomoonastrology.com. I've put a link all over this whole video, so check that out if you would like a reading. All right, now on to your mid-month October forecast. All right, Taurus, so this is covering October 15th through October 31st, 2016. Let's dive right in. Right off the bat on the 15th, we have the sun in opposition to Uranus. So the sun is in Libra in your 6th house, Uranus is in Aries in your 12th. And the sun opposite Uranus can be a little bit of a weirdo energy, just being completely honest. It's a rebellious energy because the sun is like expression, you know, creative expression of the ego and the self. And then here's Uranus, which is all about freedom and rebellion and doing things totally different from the norm and going against what society expects you to do. So everybody's going to be feeling a little bit more rebellious and a little bit more like being their true weird selves around this time, around the 15th. Now remember, when I give dates for transits, it's usually like on that day the energy is at its highest potency. But even the couple days before and a couple days following, the energy is still there, it's still fresh. So this is during the week of the 15th, but on the 15th is the strongest, okay? So this can also mean resisting authority in the workplace, like wanting to rebel against authority in the workplace, because the sun is in your work house, which is the 6th house. And the 12th house is an energy of just wanting to relax, just wanting to be free from everything in the world, okay? So you may be feeling a little bit more like you want to break away from your work life, okay? And just maybe be free for a little bit. Maybe this is a good time to go off to a different country or somewhere near water. I myself, as a Taurus, that weekend I am going to be right near the beach, boy. So right near water, which the 12th house represents, breaking away from work, having a few days off from work, which the 6th house represents, just to give you a little real life example of how that energy is playing out for us Tauruses. So on the 16th, we have a full moon in Aries, okay, in conjunction with Uranus. So now this energy continues, but there's the moon in the mix, which rules emotions. And so the moon is going to be in your 12th, the sun in your 6th. So some of my Taurus people can suddenly want to leave a job because they want to do something that's completely outside of the box, outside of the norm, outside of the corporate life. They really feel like they need to relax a little bit more or be on their own schedule, because the 6th house energy where the sun is at is all about following a schedule and a routine. And then the 12th house, where the moon and Uranus are at, are completely opposite. So some of my Tauruses may get fed up with that corporate, you know, or rat race routine of 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 every day, jumping into traffic and rushing around and then jumping back into traffic to come home, take an hour or 2 or 3 to get home, depending upon where you live. You know, it can just start catching up to some of my Taurus people to where you just want to break free from that, okay? So the full moon can bring something like that about. But the 6th house is also about physical health and to some extent mental health. And then the 12th house is mental and emotional health. Okay, so there can be a breakthrough that happens there, Tauruses. Maybe you guys finally find a great remedy for an ailment that you've suffered from for a long time. Maybe you just finally have a breakthrough to where you discover something new that can really help you health wise, or maybe you discover a better doctor, a new doctor, or a remedy or something. So that's the energy of the full moon on the 16th. But whatever happens, it can be sudden and unexpected, just a fair warning, because Uranus is an energy of the unexpected. Okay, so this is in the mix with this full moon on the 16th. So on the 19th, we have the conjunction of Mars, which is your drive and action and energy, physical drive, and Pluto, the planet of powerful transformation. Pluto can be a tad bit scary because he's all about the darker side of life, okay? And all about like life or death situations, big transformational changes that can really rock your world, okay? So Mars and Pluto coming together, this is happening in the sign of Capricorn, which for my bulls, this is our 9th house. I would be careful traveling. I know I mentioned I'm traveling, and everybody cross your fingers for me that everything goes okay with me traveling. As a matter of fact, when I post these videos up, I probably will be traveling and working while I'm doing so. But the 9th house is long distance travel, so I would definitely be careful of that, because Mars is action and movement, and Pluto, it can be an energy that kind of punishes those who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, not like Saturn. Saturn can just want to teach you a lesson after lesson. Pluto can be a little bit more cruel and vindictive, okay? So be very, very careful with this energy. Even though it's in happy-go-lucky 9th house, which is about your education and travel and seeing life from the bigger picture point of view, and really getting out there and being adventurous and, seeing new sights and things. You still got to be careful, Taurus. It's still an energy that the two powerhouses come together and they may become power hungry. Okay, so this can be in regards to education or something. You may receive some challenges, maybe even some challenges from authority, because the full moon a couple days before is all about challenging authority and challenging the traditional, tried and true. So this for you though, this Mars and Pluto affects you in your 9th house with 9th house matters. So definitely, be careful this week when it comes to conflicts with anyone, like foreigners in another country or in your own country, and foreign relations. A lot of people, this is a political time in the US. So a lot of people are speaking their mind on social media, but just be careful, because you may cause a big rift and a big conflict around this Mars and Pluto conjunction. So I would say, for that week, be true to you and be true to who you are, and make sure that you're, doing things that make you stable mentally and emotionally. But don't leap before you look. And also, use Mars and Pluto energy to be laser precise when diving into something that has to do with, finishing your educational goals or maybe some travel plans. On the 18th, we have Venus moving into Sagittarius, which for we bulls, that is our 8th house of deep transformation. And also very intimate partnerships, the soul bond, okay, if you will. And also it has to do with finances, joint finances. So Venus energy is very sweet, very soft, and very pleasant, and very people pleaser. And so when she goes into the 8th house, to any house actually, she tries to sweeten up that area of your life. So this has to do with joint finances. So maybe a partner's financials can increase, okay? Or maybe you guys start finding a way to make money together, and maybe creatively, because Venus is very creative energy. Maybe you finally make a deal to be in a business partnership with someone, and whatever you guys have been working on together finally starts generating some revenue, starts generating some income, some profit. So that would be totally awesome, Taurus. Venus in the 8th house, it can be a little bit obsessive, okay? Just being completely honest. It's a fiery energy, so it can go after its prey, so to speak, like charging full speed ahead. And then the 8th house energy, it can be kind of a little bit crazy, a little bit like Venus in Scorpio. It's a scorpionic energy. We may start to feel a little tinge of jealousy and who's that calling on your phone, and give me your passwords, and who was that texting you, and all of that great and amazing jealous stuff may start coming up when Venus moves into the 8th house. Even though it's in freedom loving Sagittarius, for Tauruses, this is the 8th house. This is serious business. Okay, we in general, Taurus energy sees relationships as being very serious business. And so when Venus goes into our 8th house, we will not be playing any games during that time with anybody who tries to mess with our relationship. Or if we're in a relationship with somebody is not as committed and, you know, as gung-ho about the relationship and passionate. Let me tell you, the 8th house is all about passion. Venus moves in there, we're going to be craving more of it, Taurus. So let's just make sure that we're getting it, okay? On the 22nd of October, the sun moves into Scorpio, which is our 7th house of relationships. And wherever the sun moves, it's about ego, expression. It highlights that area. It lights it up so we can see things much clearer. That can be either positive things or negative things, depending upon you and your own situation. So the sun in the 7th house, this can be a time where you are seen as more of a single to mingle person. If you are actually single and not dating someone on a serious tip, your friends may start setting you up more, or, you know, just people in general may be attracted to you. You may be very popular during this time, my Tauruses, as well. The sun in the 7th house can also highlight what you're missing in a relationship, whether it's in one that you already have or one that you wish you had. You may see those things clearer, you know, so it's not always sunshine and roses, but you know what, you can make it that way. Even if it comes up that you feel a little bit lonely because, you know, hey, this is 7th house energy, partnerships, one-on-one partnerships. You may see it around you, people in love and partnering up, and then you're like, when is my time? You know, when is it my time? And you may start feeling a little bit more down about that stuff during this time. So just a fair warning of that. But don't let that make you desperate, though. Okay, don't let it make you desperate to just run out and give yourself to anyone just to have like a relationship, to be able to show people, you know, on a surface level, guess what, guys, I have a girlfriend, I have a boyfriend, Facebook official, you know, all of that great stuff. It's very secondary to the real deep soul bond, in my opinion, which Venus in your 8th house is going to help bring out. But yeah, it is a time where you can be popular. You can be attracting people to you left and right. So make sure you're out there looking fly, Taurus, because you never know who or what can pop up. On the 24th, Mercury moves into Scorpio. It follows the sun into your 7th house of relationships as well. So Mercury is all about communicating, talking, texting, emailing, typing, writing, all of that good stuff. But mainly it is your logical, rational thinking in the mind, and also it is talking and communicating with people. So you're going to be, once again, more popularity energy here. If you're not into relationships or looking for one, this can be a time where if you're especially somebody who's on social media and you're a Taurus, Taurus sun, moon, or rising, where you can put yourself out there more and people will start paying more attention to you. And yeah, popularity, hello. This can be a time where a friend starts becoming a little bit more than a friend. Wink, wink. Because Mercury represents friendships with other people. So if it goes into your house of relationships, ooh la la, you never know what can happen. But it can be just spending more time one-on-one with friends as well, you know. And making also awesome business partnerships are ideal for this kind of energy. So remember, the sun and Mercury are together starting the 22nd and the 24th of October in your 7th house of relationships. Speaking again about the 7th house of relationships, there is a new moon which represents brand new beginnings. It's when the sun and moon are coming together in the same sign, in the same degree. It's happening in the sign of Scorpio in our 7th house of relationships. So once again, more relationship energy. This can be a time where some of my fellow Tauruses really fall in love with somebody. I mean, you really meet someone and you find out that you have so much in common with each other. Like that Alicia Keys song, we have way too much in common. I'm just being honest with you. We can have some situations come up like that under this new moon is in conjunction with Mercury. So, you know, Mercury's communicating. And so from one new moon until the next in November, we can be initiating some new business contracts, you know, conversing with people and negotiating, but also just talking to other people and talking about relationships. Even if you're not in one, just talking about them, it can be such a great focus for you. But yeah, if you're looking to be in a relationship, this new moon can definitely bring a new beginning. This can mean letting something go from the past in order to let fresh, bright, and new come into your life. So just keep that in mind, Taurus. Alright, so finally I'm going to do 2 cards for you guys this month. I'm going to pull them from my Angel Tarot deck. So for October 16th, the full moon in Aries, I'm pulling a card. And then for October 31st, the new moon in the sign of Scorpio, I'm also pulling a card for that as well. So I'm going to go shuffle and I'll be right back. Alright, Taurus, so these are the cards that came up for us for the full moon and new moon in October 2016. For the full moon that happens on the 16th, we got the 5 of Air card. It says an unwise choice. Learn what you can from the situation. Review everyone's motives. So this full moon is in Aries and is conjunct Uranus, which is a little bit of an explosive, unexpected type of energy. And this, like I said, can be a little bit about resisting authority, okay, especially within the workplace. Now look at, there's 5 unicorns on here, and they all look like they're challenging each other. It's like each one is looking a different way, and they're all joined together, but it's kind of like a conflict. Like it looks like a little bit of a jumbled hot mess of unicorns. Okay, so this can definitely mean a situation that there can be some misunderstandings, especially because the 12th house, where the moon and Uranus are, is an energy that is more about the unspoken, like just knowing things, okay? And then the 6th house, which is its opposite, is all about like rationalizing things and making sense of things, and, you know, being very logical with your thinking and your speaking. So to me, this tells me that there can be some communication, maybe on the other end, you know, on the work side, people want you to communicate some things to them very clearly. But then on the other side, you're like emotions, and, you know, you're more inside of your head pretty much. And this can cause a bit of a conflict, especially in the workplace. So I would be very, very careful with that. And it does say on the card, you know, review everybody's motives. So yeah, definitely do that, especially because Mars and Pluto are together in the corporate sign of Capricorn, about hard work. A few days after this, it's at its peak, but a few days before, even during this full moon, that energy is still pretty potent and building up, okay? So that has to do with your education and your pursuits of higher knowledge and higher goals. So with that in the mix, with your work environment and everything, I would just say be very careful of conflicts, be very careful of misunderstandings, you know, any misleading information, whether by you or towards you. Just be very careful with that this month, Taurus, and make sure that you maintain the communication being on point, okay? Now, Mercury moves into Scorpio, which is your 7th house, at the end of the month, which can help to bring a little bit more clarity and understanding when it comes to talking and relating to people one-on-one. But this is for the full moon on the 16th, so it can be a little tough around that time, but just remember, it will get better if you work very hard to communicate effectively with other people. So for the new moon on October 30th, the card that came up for us is the 9 of Water. So the new moon is happening in our 7th house of relationships and business partnerships, and being popular amongst groups of people, okay? It says your wish comes true, concerns fade away, a love of life. So this can be, we finally find what we're looking for as far as relationships, okay? And maybe even a really great friendship. Normally the 7th house is about romantic relationships, but it can mean, you know, just one-on-one talking to someone and relating to them. So as you can see on the card, The mermaid, you know, she has these cups down below that are filled with riches. To me, it looks like since she's above the surface now, it's kind of like she had to go dive deep below and she discovered all of this stuff. Then she came back up like, Eureka, I have found it. Like, look what I found, everybody. I found all this treasure beneath the surface. Okay, so this can be because Mercury is in the mix with this new moon, and Mercury is about communication and the mind. You may have had to go like deep within the mind for a little bit in order to find these treasures buried in your subconscious mind. This can mean you were kind of, you know, on the low or underground or laying low, keeping to yourself when it comes to relationships for the longest time. Now all of a sudden this month, Taurus, you find the relationship that you've always wanted. You know, that's what these little cups of treasure can represent for you this month. So there's definitely some good things happening at the end of the month. Just, you know, since it says your wish comes true, concerns fade away, Tauruses around this new moon, just make sure that you pray, you meditate, or do whatever you can to manifest, you know, some really good things happening for you with partnerships in life around this new moon on the 30th. All right, Taurus, well, that was it for your October 2016 mid to late monthly horoscope. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope it was helpful. Once again, I'm sorry that these are shorter this month. I got a really awesome amount of readings that have been ordered, and I'm so excited to do them. They keep coming in, so I didn't really have time to put the October horoscopes fully together last month, okay, but it was for a good reason. But now I'm going to start balancing things out. I'm going to shift my focus over to the readings a little bit more. So if you would like a personal reading, go ahead and hit me up on my website. It's indigomoonastrology.com. Thank you once again for your patience, guys, and I hope this month treats you well. I'll see you guys in November. Peace.